Hello everyone, this is Pooka, and welcome to another game I played on the Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. This video is actually going to be a pretty cool one, I think. It's one I played recently against, this is Sami Sekkoum. A lot of people should know him. He is one of the game's legendary players. He consistently does extremely well in the UK. I believe he's won the national championships, I don't know, multiple times, probably like 3 times, maybe even more. And he also took second this year, so he's having another good season. He performs extremely well at the World Championships every year. The last 2 years, he has gone undefeated in the Swiss rounds. He made top 8 last year, and of course, he was a finalist at the World Championships in 2009. Yep, that sounds right. All right. Anyway, we're gonna have a cool plasma mirror matchup here, and right away I had to Juniper away 3 of my plasma energy. And I played a chorus machine, and the 4th one is prized. So we're going to be relying on Thunderous EX's Raid and Knuckle a lot here to accelerate energy and then just kind of hope for the best. Alright, so I thought this game was really cool, right? Because it showcases a lot of complexity in this Plasma Mirror match. A lot of people like to see this format as just kind of dumb and straightforward and luck-based. And a lot of times it can be. I mean, there's no denying that. But there is a good deal of intricacy and strategy involved in quite a few of the games, to be honest. I mean, we all like to think of this as, oh, stupid laser, I stayed asleep, I lost the game, blah, 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 the game's over in 4 turns or something like that. But sometimes this can actually be really long and drawn out, where every little decision makes a difference. So this is one of those cool games, I think, where we can see going up against, obviously, the highest class of opponent here. And, yeah, this should be a good one. So, we start off, my Thunderous EX hits his Keldeo EX with the Raid Knuckle, and actually did put him to sleep with the Hypnotoxic Laser, which is a big deal. We're going to see the differences in our lists quite a bit here. Like, even though we're both playing a Plasma deck, Plasma is really difficult to build because you have so many different options you can go through. There are tons of different Pokemon. Even the Ace spec is a point of debate. There's people who like to focus more on Thundurus, people who like to focus a lot on Kyurem, people who like to focus a lot on Absol, and then there's also other techs like Lugia EX, even Tornadus EX, even the Plasma Landorus. I mean, we see all sorts of variations in these Plasma decks all the time. And this one will showcase kind of the strengths and weaknesses of both of our builds. Mine is more of a super straightforward, I'm just going to use Thundurus and Kyurem and try to be as consistent as possible. His is a little more teched out. I believe he plays Lugia EX and double colorless. So, I don't know. We'll see whose is better, all right? And we'll go through some decisions that make all the difference in this game. Now, right off the bat, we see his Keldeo EX does stay asleep. That is the first crucial moment of the game, and that forces him to bench a second Keldeo EX. So you can see here, his version relies on Keldeo, which is probably a response to Gothitelic Selgor winning U.S. Nationals, right? You need Keldeo to rush in and get rid of the status, all right? So you can see that right there, and now he's got 2 Keldeos on his bench. Now I think there are 2 ways to play the Plasma Mirror matchup. Number 1 is just bench everything, right? You just go all out, try to get in a war, and you're just slinging bombs back and forth, and whoever is the last man standing is going to be your winner. That is one way to play this matchup for sure. The second way is to try to limit your bench, and you can see I'm just going right for Absol. You can limit your bench and, try to deny your opponent's Absol, because most Plasma lists do play Absol at this point, and Mind Jack is a devastating attack when you have a full bench. So right here I am just seeing, alright, he's already had to bench 2 Keldeo EX. He's going to have to put down Deoxys at some point. So my Absol is going to be a huge attacker, and I just want to get it into play. I'll continue to Raid and Knuckle, and since, I had to discard all those Plasma energy early on, I do just want to sit here and build up energy in play. That is the big thing. Energy is the most important thing to me in a plasma mirror matchup because if you can keep that Kyurem with 3 energy using Blizzard Burn, and you can see he's going right after my Kyurem, so he understands this as well. If you can take out the big hitter, which is usually Kyurem, then you're going to be in the lead, right? Because you're going to be able to do tons of damage all the time, and your opponent really won't. Alright, so he does go right after the Kyurem. He does not have a very good start, to be completely honest. Then again, I guess neither do I. I missed an energy drop this turn. That Chorus Machine is worthless since my last Plasma Energy is prized. And now I gotta decide, where do I want to put this 30 for Frost Spear? I think I'm gonna put it on Kyurem, just kind of keeping with the theme of, you know, targeting down the energy. This is actually a very tough decision, though. I mean, where do you put that 30 damage? I mean, I could just knock out Kyurem in one hit with Absol, or even my own Kyurem. But there's a chance that I might want to knock out that Kyurem with a, I don't know, maybe I'll get another Frost Spear and then be able to finish it off with a Raiden Knuckle if I can get some Deoxys into play. Or maybe, you know, if he didn't fill his bench, Absol wouldn't have been able to do enough damage for a knockout. I am going with the strategy of benching as few things as possible. You know, I want to deny that big hit from my opponent's Absol. And wow, I actually survive another turn. That is pretty lucky to have this Kyurem survive for so long. And now I got to make a choice. I'm going to go ahead and play another energy on to my Kyurem. And, you know, here, do you just take the knockout on the Thunderous EX, take your 2 prizes, or do you continue to target down the Kyurem since that's where the big threat is? I'm going to play a Skyla here, and I'm just going to go for an Ultra Ball. So I've decided to just take on the Thunderous EX, knock that out. Might as well do that. We're going to go ahead and Ultra Ball. I guess I'll grab a Deoxys at this point. I do need to get at least 1 in play at some point to start adding enough damage where my attacks do enough to get big knockouts. Alright, and I'm going to take the first 2 prizes of the game here, but you can see this is kind of a fragile situation, right? My Kyurem has 100 damage on it. It can get knocked out by anything. Any attack he uses will knock out Kyurem. Even a Hypnotoxic Laser actually knocks me out at this point. So, even though I'm taking the lead here, I am going to lose all of my energy immediately. So, it's not as good of a position as you would think. The main thing going for me right now is that he had to waste those 2 bench spots on the Keldeo EX. And you can see I hesitated on playing mine down because, again, I don't want to give him too much damage for Absol's Mind Jack. I am very weary of that. I'm not sure what the best strategy is, and, well, there is his Absol. I'm not sure if it's best to just kind of bench everything and just go all out, you know, in a big attacking war back and forth, or if you do just want to, you know, not bench things. Normally, I am more conservative and I don't bench things, but I don't know, we'll see. Now, Sami does play a big Chorus for 8. That has become a card that is just boomed in popularity after Plasma Freeze came out. I mean, it was always kind of popular, but people hesitated playing it because benches weren't always very big. But now with Plasma, people benching Deoxys all the time. Yeah, you just... pretty much everyone plays Chorus now. And we do see a laser, and he's actually just going to retreat into Deoxys and pass, it looks like, which is kind of a cool play. I have a really bad situation right here. I had to discard so many energy on that first turn. I discarded 4 energy turn 1. And wow, I just top decked another energy. So if I were to Juniper here, I could actually just run out of energy and lose the game, right? You can see there's 3 energy in there already. And then there should be 2 plasma. That's 5 energy. So if I wanted to play a Juniper here, I would attach one, and then there would be 3 more hitting the discard pile. I don't think I'll have enough attachments the rest of the game to win if I have to Juniper here. So I'm just not going to play a Juniper here. I would like to have a catcher to maybe target down the Kyurem a little bit, but I decided not to. Um, I mean, Juniper just seems like a bad idea. It just seems like I'm going to lose if I do that. So we're gonna. I think this is gonna be a kind of a bad turn for me. I could have used Mind Jack with Absol, but then I pretty much just lose my Absol. Um, because I mean I would do 130 damage with Mind Jack, which is big. Don't get me wrong, but then I just get knocked out by either Blizzard Burn or I think his Mind Jack is doing 100, which would be bad. So I don't really know. Um, there's no easy decisions here, and you can see this is where it starts to get complicated. Um, it would be nice to just kind of rush in there and blow up a Deoxys for a knockout, but I think it's better to sit back here, force him to have a catcher, and then put an energy somewhere. Um, and yeah, we'll go from there. He's going to attach to Absol here, so he might Mind Jack, but it looks like he decides not to. I think he has to kind of go on the offensive here. He is down a prize. I am building energy on my board, which is not good for him. I actually decided to attach to my Keldeo EX because I wanted to get some worth out of my energy attachment. At some point, maybe I could Secret Sword. That's probably not going to happen, but at least I'll have my energy there. Maybe I can rush in later. I do play one Keldeo EX in this deck. This is the exact list I have from my deck breakdown that I posted. If you haven't seen that video already, check that out. Where I go through it with Crims. We discuss this deck in detail. Sammy's list is much different. As you can see, he plays the double Keldeo EX. I think he relies more on Floatstone. It's all personal preference, to be completely honest. And alright, here is the Pokemon catcher. And this is where things can start to get dicey. So he is going to go after the Absol, which I feel like that's the right move. He's going to be able to take out my biggest threat. And, earlier I went straight for Absol. I actually think that might not have been the best move because what happens is they just target it down before it does anything. If I could just kind of spring the Absol out of nowhere and then get a huge Mind Jack, it would be the difference maker. But what I did was put it down early and then it got catchered and, well, just gets knocked out. And then he has no downside to benching all of those Pokemon. And now I'm at the disadvantage. Alright, so I am just going to attach to Deoxys and Helix Force. I realize that there is that Deoxys of his on the bench with the Plasma already, but I don't really have any other options here. Again, I don't think I can afford to Juniper away those energy. They're just too important at this point. I need to be able to attach every turn, otherwise I'm just going to fall behind, I think. And the point where I'm going to be able to use Raid and Knuckle is pretty much over. And alright, so he does miss the Prism energy, it looks like. That is a pretty big deal. He did use 2 or 3 Prisms already, which is why I decided to just take this risk. It didn't seem too likely that he would have another one. But even if he did, like a Deoxys knockout isn't the worst thing in the world. I can deal with that. Deoxys isn't too good of an attacker against everything else, so I wasn't too worried about it. Alright, so here he actually just does use Raid and Knuckle. And now is probably the turn to do something. I'm going to Plasma Ball for my Kyurem. And we'll get that down with a Prism, I think. Might as well start to power that up. And then we can go ahead with a Laser. Might as well do that since I'm going to Juniper the hand away anyway. And I think this is the biggest moment of the game. We're going to rush in with Keldeo, get a Floatstone in it, I get a free retreat, and I get to Tool Scrapper away both of his Floatstones, alright? And PTCGO is so excited about Tool Scrapper, you can even discard tools from your own side. You could discard 4 tools if you wanted to. But this is huge, alright? I hit the Laser and the Tool Scrapper, and now he has no real way to get out of the status because he is so reliant on Floatstone. This is actually why I play Tool Scrapper in the deck. It is not really for Garbodor, although it is nice against that deck, it is for Floatstone. Because everybody starts to rely on Floatstone, then Tool Scrapper becomes very important. And you can see here, he over the course of the game, you kind of have to discard Floatstones or just attach them to random spots, so you might run out by the end of the game. And now he's just kind of stuck with 2 useless Keldeo EX on the bench. I don't know if he plays Switch as well, but there are 2 Floatstone in the discard, and there's 1 on the Deoxys. You know, we usually see about 4 Floatstone and Switch combination of those. That's usually the standard, and there are 3 gone now. 1 is sitting on that Deoxys EX. So at most he'll have 1 left. Alright, so this is a huge play. He is going to go ahead with the laser and an N. Again, I decided not to bench extra Deoxys EX, and oh my program goes crazy. I decided not to bench extra Deoxys, and it pays off because my Thundurus lives with 10 HP. Alright, so this is where limiting my bench the entire game really did pay off. Because, I mean, I wouldn't have survived without that. And now, I'm going to Chorus, get a nice hand of 7, and I actually missed an energy to get the knockout. Otherwise I would have used Blizzard Burn to knock out this Absol. I can't believe I missed. Wow. So this would have been a really good situation. You know, I survived with 10 HP on the Thundurus EX, and now what do I do? I am going to take advantage of the Keldeos, though. We're going to catch her out as Keldeo EX because, you know, there's only 1 Floatstone left, I think. Maybe a Switch or a Floatstone. Most people play 4. I'm running off that assumption. If he plays like a 5th Switch card, that could backfire. But I feel like it's a pretty safe bet at this point. You know, he ended himself down to 4. And now I'm just going to retreat and start to build energy in play. We're going to raid a Knuckle for 40 and then get the 3rd energy on to cure him. And now we have an army of attackers. Now the only bad part about this is Thundurus EX could get knocked out by a laser. If there is one of those. That could happen. So that is really the only thing I'm worried about here. Or, of course, his 4th Floatstone or Switch. And, there is the laser. So we could be in some trouble still. This is kind of a weird spot where now I have even more decisions to make. If he draws that 4th Floatstone, he can just retreat and he'll probably get an attack off to win the game. He's actually going to retreat, or he's going to rush in with the other Keldeo, you know, to put up the one with more HP. And he's just going to pass for the knockout. I'm going to promote Deoxys EX here. And I have to decide, what do I want to do here? And N is the obvious play. I could have done catcher there. I think I got a little too antsy and decided not to catcher. But I'm going to take a look and I see there's 1 Prism, 1 Plasma in the discard pile. There's another Prism and another Plasma on the Absol. There's another Prism and another Plasma on the Deoxys. So if I catcher out the Deoxys and just take 2 prizes there, he's got 2 cards off of the N. Odds of him having a response knockout are so low that I'm just going to take it. And then next turn I should be able to Blizzard Burn for the win. Now I also did the math, and Absol will be 10 short of knocking me out. And also he is out of Hypnotoxic Lasers. So unless he plays a plus power, he would also need a second Deoxys. So he would need a Deoxys and a plus power. Or maybe a Shadow Triad for another laser, I don't know. But I feel pretty safe at this point that Deoxys will not get knocked out. He'll survive just barely from a Mind Jack from Absol. And again, limiting my bench size pays off big time here. Yeah, there were points where I don't know. It seemed like it wasn't the right thing to do, but um, here it seems like it is paying off. And uh-oh, there is the Prism Energy and an N. If he draws Chorus Machine for the 4th Plasma Energy, Aiken Helix Force for the win. And I am going to take a heartbreaking loss. So you can see, still at this point, I probably made a questionable move last turn. I just figured the odds were so low that he would be able to pull something off with Deoxys. And really, if Deoxys isn't attacking, I'm winning the game with Blizzard Burn. So I decided to take that risk. I might have just been better off just attacking the Keldeo with Kyurem last turn. But here, I think after he misses that, I pretty much win, because he's out of lasers. I have the Float Stone on my Keldeo, and he is going to catch my Deoxys, so this is a scary moment, and a Chorus for 7, but I purposely retreated the energy off of my Deoxys EX to prevent him from using Helix Force to knock out my Deoxys. Since I have, let's see, I think I have 90 or 80 HP left. Not sure which one. I think I have 90 left. Yeah, because I would survive by 10 from Absol if he used Mind Jack as well. Yeah, I have 90 HP left. And wow, you can see I'm just going to win here by the slimmest of margins in a weird game that was very complicated, a very long, drawn-out game, back and forth, where we can see the double Keldeo on his side definitely burned him over the course of the game. Limiting my bench size did just enough to avoid knockouts, to give me enough of an advantage to eventually win the game. He says he missed the last Float Stone, but I said he can't even knock me out because I retreated the energy off of Deoxys EX. So all these little things here are mattering over the course of the game. And, you know, sometimes you can't really predict how this matchup goes, honestly. It is very complicated. Sometimes it can just be, you know, one person steamrolls the other one. But, you know, that's Pokemon sometimes. Overall, though, I think this is a pretty complex mirror matchup where you have to plan ahead. You have to make, you know, good decisions over the course of the game. It's not just, you know, turn by turn. It's an overall game plan. And I think mine paid off here. We're having some troubles with the chat sensor, apparently. The oversensitive chat sensor. And, yeah, at this point I can just rush in with Keldeo, retreat for free, and Blizzard Burn anything on his board for the game. And also he can't retreat because he doesn't have a Float Stone. Alright, so that is going to wrap this game up. I hope you guys enjoyed. That was one of the games I've enjoyed the most recently, playing the Pokemon TCG. And I thought it was exciting. So I'll have some more videos for you soon. I am Pooka here from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.